Hey, what's up everybody? It's O coming back with another commentary. So, we have, let me sit on the production tab, we have Feast spawning at the bottom right, and we have empirekas spawning at the top left. So, if you see my 2v2 replay with empirekas and Aristio, I think, yeah, it was with both of them. They basically lost that 2v2 show match, and that tournament was for money. So unfortunately, they did lose that tournament, and there was a bit of nerd raging going on. So, but in a 1v1, this guy is really good. He's basically top 10 Grandmaster League in Europe. So he's definitely a phenomenal player. I've not watched Feast before. I've not had the... what's the word that I'm looking for? I can't really think of it right now, but he has a lot of probes queued up, and it looks like he's just going to go for a little bit economic build. He's going to get down his gateway, most likely on 13 supply, possibly. And the map this is on is Entomb Valley, and as you can see, this is kind of a long rush distance. So if either of these players wanted to go for some really nice pressure, it's going to be kind of difficult, because the other player, if he's scouting correctly, he's going to have a lot of time to prepare. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit since nothing's really happening. So this player is going to have a lot of time to prepare if either one of them try to go for a 6:30-minute attack, which is kind of the standard timing. It's around the time Warp Gate finishes. Warp Gate finishes around 6 minutes. If the Terran player wants to attack, he would usually go 2 racks or 3 racks. 4 racks is kind of rare because it's going to cost a lot of minerals. You have a lot of production that you can't really afford to use, and you're basically going to want to end the game if you try to go for 4 racks. It's kind of like a 5 gates. And if you try to go for expansion off of it, you can kind of pull it off, because mules are a little bit OP. Because each mule just basically costs 300 minerals. But I'm not sure, since there was a recent debuff for mules, they actually mine less minerals, I suppose. I think it's around 200 minerals. I'm not too sure. I have to look it up or recheck it. And he is not going to go for any kind of pressure. He's actually going to go for a double expand, 1 macro command center inside his base, and then 1 command center over here as well. So this is an extremely risky build. I'm going to have to set myself on busy. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. Ah, here we go. Busy, there we go. No one can message me anymore. And he's going to drop down a bunch of barracks. He has 4 racks coming up here, and I don't blame him for getting a bunch of barracks, because he's pretty soon going to have a ton of minerals, since, oh man, if that was another command center, that would have been a little bit ridiculous. That would have been game over for sure. I don't know how he'd be able to pull off having 2 macro command centers. That'd be a little redonkulous. But he is finally going to drop down all gas at... It looks like he's kind of doing a variation of the Spinishiwa build. And if you're not familiar with the Spinishiwa build, it's basically, he's a Zerg player, and he'll go for mass minerals first. He's not going to get his gas until 40 supply. And then, as we can see, empirekas got his gas around 55, 52 supply. And this is actually a pretty good economic build. He's going to rally his SCVs from his main base down to his natural, while he's still rallying SCVs from his main over here. And he didn't really do a probe transfer, anything like that. He's not doing anything too fancy. And the Protoss player is going to opt to get his upgrades rather than get Colossus or anything like that. And the reason why you don't want to go for Colossus right now is because that's going to cost a lot of gas. It's going to be very difficult to afford, so he's most likely going to go for some gateway units. And yeah, 2 base with 4 gas. It's all you can really afford are to get upgrades and gateway units, and you kind of mix it in with sentries as well. And we can see him playing a little bit defensively here. He's kind of worried about attack a little bit. That's why he has a few sentries. Both players are going for a pretty economic build. And if either one of them wanted to attack, they would have a pretty difficult time taking this out. I mean, look at how many units this player has. And if Feast went for some kind of really hardcore offensive build where he had Colossus with thermal lance, he would be able to take out this army pretty easily, because he can just keep microing the army back and forth. And he does opt in to take out those rocks over there, so that way he can take out his macro command center, put it over here so that way he can start mining as well. And both players seem to be pretty content just having this kind of composition of units, and he does get a Templar Archive instead of going for the Colossus. And I actually prefer Templars over Colossus because if he can get some pretty good storms off, that's lights out for the Terran player. And he's going to try to get as much gas as possible because you can never have too much gas since you're going to be going for double upgrades, getting that Ghost Academy, getting Armory, another Engineering Bay. And yeah, it's a pretty gas intensive build. And we just see the for the Protoss player, he's getting a Zealot Archon or Chargelot Archon, which is a pretty fantastic build. I thought he was going to opt in to get a Storm, but if we look at the Productions tab, he did not get the Storm the entire time, and he's just going to get his upgrades to make this army really solid and very difficult to take out. And he might actually be able to take out this expansion. He is going to kill quite a few SCVs, and he's going to have pretty nice force fields preventing the Terran army from trying to reinforce his main base, backing up his medevacs so that way he does not lose them. That'd be kind of a big deal if he lost those medevacs because he's constantly stimming, and he finally has the Protoss army cornered. And this is the part where the Protoss needs to attack. And does he have EMPs to be able to help reinforce this? He's actually trying to get a flank, but he has a really nice concave over here, and he does block off his own Zealots from attacking, but at the same time he was trying to prevent the Terran army from getting away. And these Zealots with 2/2 are so resilient against Terran attacks, especially with Guardian Shield. They just virtually do no damage considering how much armor they have, and he might actually be able to take out this command center if he's lucky. And these were really good force fields on the Protoss player's part. If we look at the units lost up, Terran player has lost substantially more, even though he's had the income advantage this whole entire game. The Protoss player did have a better army composition, and he's trying to attack with his SCVs, and that's never a good scenario. And it came down to the Terran player not having ghosts soon enough to be able to do EMP on those Archons and Zealots, and this is just kind of overwhelming for the Terran player. He might be able to fend this off if he's lucky. Keep in mind, he does still have his other command center, and he's trying to macro this as hard as possible. If we look at the income, he's really far behind, but he does have meals. He does have a lot of energy saved up on all his command centers. He should drop down a few meals over here as well, and he might be able to macro this advantage off a little bit, and he's just going to use that factory to delay time a little bit. And Protoss player is just going to go for it. Does he have Storm? No, he does not. He's just going to do feedback on the medevacs. I guess he's kind of worried about the Templars doing a Storm or anything like that. And he does back up the Terran player at the ramp over here so that way he can prevent it from getting a nice surround on the Protoss army. But this kind of looks like it's lights out for the Terran player. The Protoss army did way too much damage to the Terran economy. He did take out a lot of SCVs. He delayed a lot of mining time for the Terran player. And this is just not a good situation in general for the Terran player. So I'm assuming he's going to GG any moment, and the Protoss player is about to get his, he already does have his third base, so, and he might just follow this up with Colossus. His 3/3 is almost about to be finished, but once that finishes, if we look at the upgrades of the Terran player, he's going to have an extremely difficult time trying to take out this whole entire Protoss army, because look at the supply discrepancy. 50 supply more, 40 supply more than his Terran counterpart. So I know it's just going to be up to the Protoss player to get a lot more gateways, and he should get a shield upgrade, and that's exactly what he's doing. He kind of read my mind there for that moment, and he's going to get some Templars to do some feedback on the medevacs before he turns them into Archons. And it's an even amount of bases, but you never know how the tide can turn, because if we look at the income, Terran player has somewhat caught up, not really, but the income is kind of even only because of those mules. Those mules are really helping out the Terran army, but at the same time, the Protoss has the Chrono Boost, and it's really helping him get his upgrades really fast. And the Terran is still at 2-1, while the Protoss is at 3-3, about to get 1 for shields, and that's just going to make his army even more resilient and much more difficult to take out. And we're heading into that part of the game, the meta game, where the Protoss is substantially more powerful than the Terran player. And it's kind of difficult to take out Protoss in the metagame because they have an arsenal of units that they can use, like Colossus, Templars, Templars for the Storms, and then they have those very resilient Zealots that can take up a lot of that upfront damage. But you have to keep in mind, the Terran player could just keep kiting the Zealots back and forth if they do have really good positioning, or they can stay on the ramp and keep the Zealots from getting a full surround on the army. If the Protoss has enough Zealots, you can kind of use the Zealots as Zerglings and get a full surround on the Terran army. And Zealots do a lot of damage. If we look at how much damage they do, 11 damage, 2 attacks, that's 22 damage, 11 times 2. And a Marine doesn't have that much damage, and the Protoss player is just going to go for it. He actually researched Storm, and he has the Terran army backed up, and this is not looking good for him. He's actually going to back up for some reason. It looks like he's just kind of toying with his opponent a little bit, and this is just way too many units for the Terran player to handle. And he did a nice job holding off the attacks in the beginning, but there's no way he can hold this off now, especially with 3-3-1. And empirekas does call out the GG, being a well-mannered player. Feast won this game very decisively, and that was pretty interesting to watch. I rarely kind of see Zealot Archon builds. Colossus, Stalker, Zealots, Sentry are a little more prominent in these types of matchups, and I'm kind of glad the Protoss players are kind of switching it up a little bit recently. I enjoy watching that, seeing a little diversity in builds. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that game. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.